Some roles make actors famous. And then there are roles so dangerous, they can completely consume the person playing them. The moment Jaafar Jackson was cast as Michael Jackson in Michael, the internet reacted almost instantly. Not just because the resemblance was shocking, but because it created a strange feeling, as if a legend was somehow coming back to life. And the more Jaafar looked like Michael Jackson, the heavier the pressure became. Because this was never just about playing a famous artist. This was about stepping into the shadow of the biggest icon in pop culture history. A man whose voice, movements, and image are already burned into the memory of millions around the world. One wrong detail, and everyone would notice immediately. But maybe the scarier possibility is the opposite. What happens if Jaafar Jackson becomes too convincing? If he captures Michael Jackson so perfectly that audiences stop seeing the actor behind the performance? Sometimes the hardest part of playing a legend is surviving the role after the cameras stop rolling. Because Jaafar Jackson was not born outside the Jackson story. He was born directly inside it. As a child, Jaafar grew up inside Hayvenhurst, the famous Jackson family estate in Encino, California. The house was filled with studio conversations, rehearsals, dancers, musicians, family performances, and constant creative energy. Years later, the same house would become emotionally important again while he prepared for the role of Michael Jackson. But back then, it wasn't a historic landmark to him. It was just home. He's reconnecting with memories that already existed long before Hollywood entered his life. The Jackson family itself was enormous, roughly 35 to 40 cousins growing up around one another constantly. Jaafar also grew up with 9 brothers and 2 sisters, creating an environment that often felt more like a small community than a celebrity household. To the outside world, the Jackson name represented superstardom. Jaafar has spoken about spending time around Michael as a child, not only seeing the performer the world admired, but experiencing moments of family life that most people never saw. And maybe that's where the pressure of this role becomes much more emotional than people realize. Because growing up around greatness can inspire you, but it can also quietly make individuality harder to find, especially when the standard everyone compares you to is Michael Jackson. Jaafar began singing and playing piano around the age of 12. Over time, he developed a strong love for music, dancing, and performance. But his influences extended beyond the Jackson family itself. He has shared that he grew up listening to Nat King Cole, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Sam Cooke, artists whose influence still stays with him today. That detail matters more than it seems, because it shows that Jaafar was never simply trying to imitate Michael Jackson. He was building his own taste, his own identity, and his own relationship with music. And for many years, he stayed surprisingly far away from the mainstream spotlight. Before Michael, Jaafar focused mostly on personal music, releasing the single Got Me Singing in 2019. He also explored modeling, and at one point seriously considered becoming a professional golfer instead of fully entering entertainment. Acting was never the original plan. In fact, everything changed only after producer Graham King contacted him in 2020 about portraying Michael Jackson. And suddenly, the comparison he had quietly lived beside for years became impossible to avoid. Because there's an invisible pressure attached to the Jackson name that most people outside the family never truly understand. No matter what you do, the same question always follows. Does he remind you of Michael? And the closer someone stands to a legend, the easier it becomes to disappear inside their shadow. Jaafar seemed deeply aware of that risk, which may explain why his preparation for the role became so personal and intense. Reports surrounding the production describe years of training involving acting coaches, daily dance rehearsals, movement study, and long periods spent back inside Hayvenhurst while researching Michael's world and creative habits. Not simply to imitate him, but to understand him from the inside. When the first official images of Jaafar Jackson dressed as Michael Jackson were released, public reaction exploded almost immediately. But what shocked people was not just the resemblance. It was the emotional reaction to it. Across social media, many viewers repeated the same sentence: "It feels like Michael is back." And that response reveals why this project carries a completely different level of pressure from a normal biopic. People are not watching this film with emotional distance. They're comparing it to personal memories they already carry inside them. The Motown 25 performance, Billie Jean, Beat It, Thriller, the moonwalk, the stage presence, the energy, the mystery. Every movement matters. Not only the face or the costume, but the posture. The way Michael stood still before moving. The tension in his shoulders, the eye contact, even the rhythm of how his body reacted to music. That became the hardest part of the entire project, because audiences are not judging whether Jaafar looks like Michael Jackson. They're judging whether he feels like him. Director Antoine Fuqua openly described Jaafar as someone capable of naturally channeling Michael's spirit. Producer Graham King also explained that Jaafar possessed a natural ability to emulate Michael, and impressed the production team almost immediately during early auditions. Fuqua later recalled one specific moment after meeting him. He walked out of the room, and it was Michael Jackson. And maybe that quote explains why the role gradually stopped feeling like ordinary acting. Because Jaafar did not rely heavily on CGI, camera tricks, or artificial shortcuts to create the illusion. He physically rebuilt the performance. Reports surrounding the film describe nearly 2 years of intense preparation involving daily dance rehearsals, movement training, stage recreation, endurance conditioning, and non-stop study of Michael's physical behavior. Some training sessions reportedly became so exhausting that his feet would bleed or go numb after hours of practice. And that level of commitment became necessary because many scenes required precise recreations of Michael Jackson's most iconic performances, especially Motown 25. For Jaafar, recreating the legendary Billie Jean performance reportedly became one of the biggest challenges in the entire production. But what makes this transformation fascinating is that it went far beyond choreography. Michael Jackson was never just movement. He was contrast. Soft-spoken, yet explosive. Delicate, yet powerful. Quiet offstage, electric under the lights. And recreating that emotional balance may have been harder than learning the dancing itself. Jaafar reportedly studied every possible detail. Body language, eye movement, the way Michael used clothing during performances, the rhythm of his breathing, the emotional timing between movements, and even the way he spoke during private conversations. At one point, Jaafar revealed that he practiced speaking in Michael's voice by reading an entire book out loud that way. He once shared, "I created a research room with every inch of the wall filled with quotes of his mantras, his personal handwritings." And the deeper he disappeared into the role, the more public curiosity around the film kept growing. Because at some point, people stopped asking whether Jaafar Jackson could convincingly play Michael Jackson. Instead, a much stranger question began to appear. Is he simply portraying Michael Jackson, or becoming the closest thing the world has seen to him since 2009? This was never just a film about music. It was a film connected to one of the most valuable entertainment legacies on Earth. More than 16 years after his death, Michael Jackson remains one of the most profitable celebrity brands in modern history. According to Forbes, the Michael Jackson estate earned approximately $105 million in 2025 alone, once again placing him among the world's highest-paid deceased celebrities. And perhaps the most shocking part is this. Since Michael's death in 2009, the estate has reportedly generated more than $3.5 billion. That number changes the entire scale of what this movie actually represents. Because Michael Jackson's legacy no longer exists only as music. It exists as a global business ecosystem. The estate continues generating enormous revenue through multiple channels: streaming, music publishing, licensing, merchandise, documentaries, Cirque du Soleil productions, global fan culture, and massive catalog deals involving Sony. One of the biggest developments came in 2024, when reports emerged regarding the sale of approximately 50% of Michael Jackson's catalog stake in a deal valued at more than $1.2 billion, one of the largest transactions in music industry history. And even that is only part of the machine. The Broadway production MJ, the musical, became another enormous success story. By 2026, the show had grossed more than $319 million on Broadway, while attracting over 2 million attendees worldwide. At that point, it became impossible to ignore the truth. Michael Jackson is no longer just remembered as an artist. He operates more like an entertainment institution. And suddenly, the emotional pressure surrounding Jaafar Jackson begins to look very different. Because now the role is not only connected to fan expectations, it's connected to a billion-dollar legacy. That's why Michael is being treated by Hollywood as something far larger than a traditional biopic. The film is expected to function simultaneously as a cultural event, an emotional nostalgia experience, a box office phenomenon, and a catalyst capable of boosting the entire Michael Jackson business empire once again. Industry analysts already expect the movie to generate massive global attention, capable of increasing streaming numbers, merchandise sales, catalog consumption, and long-term estate revenue across multiple platforms. In other words, the success of the film affects far more than Hollywood reviews. It affects the emotional and financial future of one of the biggest celebrity legacies ever created. And that reality creates a very specific kind of pressure for Jaafar Jackson. Because if the film succeeds, he could become the face most closely associated with introducing Michael Jackson to an entirely new generation, not as a family member, but as the person who emotionally reconnected millions of people to Michael again. But if the film fails, the criticism will go far beyond acting. People will not simply say the performance was disappointing. They will feel that something sacred was mishandled, that a legend was recreated the wrong way. And maybe that's the hidden danger underneath all of this. Because once a movie becomes tied to a billion-dollar legacy, the pressure stops being only professional. It becomes personal. And for Jaafar Jackson, that may be the most psychologically difficult part of the entire journey. Because after Michael finally releases, who exactly will he become afterward? An actor? A performer? A future star? Or permanently the guy who played Michael Jackson? That question feels uncomfortable because it touches the darkest side of iconic roles. Hollywood has a long history of actors struggling to escape legendary characters. Some spend decades fighting typecasting after one performance becomes too recognizable. But Jaafar's situation is even more complicated than that. Because he didn't just step into Michael Jackson temporarily for a film. He was already born carrying the Jackson name. Which means this role doesn't only affect his career. It reaches directly into his personal identity and family legacy at the same time. That tension seems to exist underneath almost every part of Jaafar's public behavior during production. One of the most noticeable things about him throughout the filming process was how unusually quiet and low-profile he remained. While public anticipation around the movie kept growing online, Jaafar avoided turning himself into a media personality. In fact, he later revealed something surprising about the project itself. "No one in my family knew for a full year. I kept it pretty quiet until I felt comfortable enough to share it." And strangely, that silence may have intensified public fascination even more. Because the less people know about the real Jaafar Jackson, the easier it becomes for audiences to emotionally replace him with Michael Jackson completely. That's what makes this transformation feel psychologically dangerous in a way most biopics never become. And over time, the line between tribute, transformation, and losing yourself can become incredibly fragile, because it suggests the process stopped feeling like simple performance long ago. At some point, it became emotional immersion. Even inside his own family, the emotional weight of the film became impossible to ignore. Reports surrounding the production revealed that after seeing parts of the movie, Jaafar's mother reportedly became highly protective of him, worried about the level of scrutiny, pressure, and worldwide attention her son would face once the film finally reaches audiences. And honestly, that concern makes perfect sense, because this isn't normal fame. This is global attention connected to one of the most emotionally protected figures in entertainment history. Jaafar also seems fully aware of the long-term risks himself. Rather than staying close to music-centered performances after Michael, Jaafar has openly expressed interest in taking roles completely opposite from this experience. Characters with no singing, no dancing, and no connection to Michael Jackson's style at all. As he explained, he wants opportunities to transform into someone else where it's unexpected. And maybe that statement quietly reveals the real battle happening underneath everything else. Because he was never trying to become Michael Jackson. And maybe that's the detail people misunderstand the most. Because while the world keeps asking whether Jaafar Jackson is becoming Michael Jackson, the truth is far more complicated than imitation. In reality, nobody involved in the film truly believes Michael Jackson can be recreated completely. Not even the people making the movie. Both Antoine Fuqua and Graham King have emphasized the same idea repeatedly. Nobody can be Michael Jackson, but Michael Jackson. And honestly, that may be the smartest creative decision behind the entire project. The feeling of watching Michael Jackson perform in real time while the entire world seemed frozen around him. That's why early reactions and reviews surrounding the project keep using words like electrifying. Not because audiences believe Michael Jackson has literally returned, but because the film appears capable of briefly recreating the emotional experience of witnessing him again. And maybe that's the real pressure Jaafar Jackson has been carrying this entire time. Not simply acting well, but bringing a legend back to life, long enough for the world to feel him one more time. So what do you think? Can anyone truly bring Michael Jackson back to life on screen? Or is Jaafar Jackson attempting something no performer was ever fully meant to carry alone?